James Anderson sat alone at a table in the corner of Joe's diner. The cozy establishment was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of laughter and chatter, but all he could hear was the deafening silence of his own grief. It had been 3 years since he lost Lily, a loss that felt like a gaping hole in his soul. Despite his wealth and success as a businessman, James felt a constant ache in his heart, an emptiness that no amount of money could fill. Hi there, I'm Goldie, and welcome to Goldie's Love Stories. He absent-mindedly picked at the plate of pancakes in front of him, tracing the fork with his finger. He remembered their ritual of Sunday breakfasts. Lily would always tease him for being too meticulous about his pancakes. The memories, once comforting, now stung like a bittersweet reminder of what he no longer had. As he sipped his coffee, his eyes wandered around the diner, landing on a waitress who was moving gracefully between tables. Her long hair framed her face in soft waves, and when she turned, James felt as if someone had walked over his grave. It was as if he were staring at a ghost. The woman looked exactly like Lily. The same delicate features, the warm smile. It was uncanny. He blinked, half wondering if he were dreaming or if his mind had started to play tricks on him. James couldn't tear his gaze away. When she approached his table, he could hear his heart pounding in his chest. "Hi there. What can I get you?" she asked, her voice cheerful and bright. For a moment, he was frozen, words caught in his throat. I'll have the pancakes," he managed to stammer, his voice shaky. As she wrote down his order, he noticed something shiny on her finger, the same heart-shaped ring he had given to Lily on their wedding day 30 years ago. The sight of it sent a jolt through his body. "What's your name?" he asked, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. "Mia," she replied with a cheerful smile, and in that instant, James was overwhelmed by a wave of emotions. His mind raced, and he questioned his sanity. Was this real? How could this be possible? The woman before him was a spitting image of his late wife, and the ring on her finger was no coincidence. James felt a familiar mix of hope and fear swirling within him. The emptiness he had grown accustomed to began to flicker with possibility. Yet a small voice in his head told him to walk away. This couldn't be happening. He fought against it, grappling with the questions of what it all meant. "Do you work here often?" he asked, trying to divert his thoughts from the storm raging inside him. "Just started a month ago," she answered, setting down a fresh cup of coffee, the steam rising between them like the echoes of a past long gone. "I'm saving up to go back to school." James leaned back in his chair, the weight of her words feeling heavy yet hopeful. She had her own dreams, just as Lily had. A longing surged within him. Seeing Mia was like opening a floodgate. The memories of warmth, laughter, and love washed over him, making him ache for the past. Before he could dwell further on his thoughts, he stood up abruptly and approached the counter where Mia was preparing orders. Sorry if this sounds strange," he stuttered, "but you look just like someone I used to know." Her gaze turned curious, and he felt a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Really? Lots of people say I have one of those faces," she said, a hint of amusement in her tone, but there was no mistaking the way her expression softened as he spoke. And then he saw it, the moment she caught sight of the wedding ring on her finger. For a brief second, her breath caught in her throat, and James felt as if they were both suspended in time. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked, his voice low and earnest, as if the question would unravel everything. "It's been in the family for generations," she replied after a moment, her voice wavering slightly. James nodded, battling the swirl of emotions. Could it really be just a ring from a grandmother? Or was it more than that? Did Mia share a connection to his late wife? Or was this simply a cruel coincidence? "I'm sorry if I'm intruding," he finally said, somewhat embarrassed by his persistence. "No," Mia replied, her eyes shining with something he couldn't quite place. "You're not intruding. It's just this is a little weird, isn't it?" "Yeah," He chuckled softly, nervous energy buzzing between them. As he stepped back, he felt a twist in his heart. Part of him wanted to stay and learn more about this woman who had stirred feelings he hadn't experienced in years, while another part urged him to walk away, fearing he might be getting lost in a fantasy. But in that small diner, under the flickering neon lights, James knew he had to find out more. Something about Mia called to him in a way he hadn't felt since losing Lily. "Can I see you again?" he blurted before he could second-guess himself. Her eyes widened slightly, surprise mingling with curiosity. "Sure. I'm here every day," she smiled. And in that moment, beneath the bright glow of jukebox tunes and clattering dishes, James felt the boundaries of loss begin to blur, opening a fragile door to what could come next. For the first time in years, James left a place feeling a flicker of hope igniting in his chest as he grappled with the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, life was offering him a second chance. James found himself returning to Joe's diner almost every day. With each visit, the initial shock of seeing Mia gradually transformed into something more profound. The memories of Lily still lingered, haunting him like whispers in the back of his mind, but Mia's laughter, her warmth, and the way she listened to him drew him in deeper. Yet, as he spent more time with her, a conflicting sense of fear began to brew within him. What if Mia wasn't really like Lily? A part of him feared that he was simply projecting his long-lost love onto this new life. Would it be fair to either of them if he held onto memories of one woman while trying to forge a connection with another? James often found himself staring into his coffee cup, wrestling with his thoughts. He noticed Mia pulling back slightly during their recent interactions. There was something in her gaze that hinted she felt the uncertainty too. "You seem a little distant today," he said one afternoon as they sat in their usual booth. "Is everything all right?" "I'm fine," she replied, forcing a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just a little tired, I guess." James sensed more than she revealed. Was she afraid of the similarities between her and Lily? Did the fact that she reminded him of someone who'd passed cause her discomfort? "You know, you don't have to feel that way. I'm not trying to replace any memories," he said softly. Mia looked down, fidgeting with the edge of her apron. "It's just sometimes I worry that I'm not who you want me to be," she confessed. "Especially if you're still dealing with losing her." James reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "I'm not looking for someone to fill her shoes. I just care about you. You make me feel alive again." She met his eyes, searching for sincerity, and he hoped she found it there. Just then, the weight of an unspoken truth pressed heavily between them. "What if we could share our pasts, you know? Find a way to understand each other better?" Mia suggested, her voice trembling slightly. James nodded, eager for deeper connection. "I'd like that." As they shared stories, Mia opened up about her life. "I was adopted," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "The only thing I have from my biological family is this ring." She held up the delicate heart-shaped ring on her finger. James's heart raced. "This ring," he echoed, feeling an intense buzz of electricity. The atmosphere shifted as he felt the pieces aligning. "What do you mean? Tell me more." Mia paused, visibly nervous. "It belonged to my birth mother," she said quietly. "The story goes that it was passed down through generations. I don't know much about her. I've always wanted to find out more, but haven't been able to." James felt a lump form in his throat, a rush of memories and significance dawning on him. "The ring I gave Lily on our wedding day, it was her mother's," he murmured, voice barely a whisper. "I wanted to get her something new, but her mother insisted on passing down the family heirloom, keeping that bond alive through generations. The design is identical to the one you wear, almost like two pieces of the same family." Mia's eyes widened as she processed his words. "You mean, maybe we have a connection?" she asked, her sincerity sparking something within him. He struggled to find the words. "Could it be possible that you and Lily are related? Maybe even family?" The revelation hung heavily in the air, a tangled thread of fate weaving through the past and present. James's heart raced with both excitement and fear, contemplating the implications. If Mia was somehow linked to Lily, what did that mean for their budding relationship? Would it be a beautiful serendipity, or just an echo of loss? Mia looked away, her brow furrowing in confusion. I've never known anyone from my biological family. This feels complicated. Just as James began to contemplate their possible connection, an ethereal bond that linked the two women, they were interrupted by a loud crash from the diner's entrance. A figure stumbled in, causing a mix of startled gasps among the patrons. James's heart dropped as he recognized the man, Mike, Mia's ex-boyfriend. He had an aggressive demeanor and an unsettling history that she had hinted at during their conversations. James watched as Mia's face drained of color, and a flicker of fear crossed her eyes. "Mia?" Mike yelled, striding towards her with a menacing gait. "What are you doing here? You can't just run away from me." James felt his blood boil. He stood protectively, instinctively stepping closer to Mia as the tension escalated in the diner. "Hey, back off," he shouted, his voice firm but steady. Mike ignored him, his focus entirely on Mia. "You think you can just forget about me? I won't let you." "Stop!" Mia cried out, her voice cracking, and James felt his heart ache for her. In that moment, the connection they had begun to forge felt perilous, teetering on the edge of chaos. James stepped forward, his resolve hardening. "She's moved on, and it's time you did too. You need to leave her alone." Mia's eyes darted between the two men, the threat of the past looming over her like a dark cloud, while James stood firm, a beacon of light amidst the turmoil. Mike smirked, his bravado unshaken. "And what are you going to do about it?" He stepped closer, looming over both Mia and James. The patrons in the diner watched with bated breath, the air thick with anxiety. In a flash, Mike swung his arm in a rough motion, and James reacted instinctively. Protecting Mia was his priority. He lunged forward, grabbing Mike's wrist and pushing him away from Mia. The tussle took a turn as chairs clattered and startled gasps filled the room. Shouts and alarms rang out as the two men grappled, the fear of what felt like a storm brewing overwhelming the diner's atmosphere. "Get away from her," James shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. With a swift motion, he pushed Mike back, yet the larger man shoved him, knocking him against a nearby table. Mia screamed, "No, stop it." But the chaos spun out of control, and she felt paralyzed by both fear for herself and worry for James. The scene became a blur of faces and noise, until suddenly, Mike stumbled back toward the exit, realizing he was outmatched. "You'll regret this," he hissed back at them before storming out, the doors swinging behind him as a haunting silence followed his departure. James took a deep breath, the adrenaline dissipating as he turned to face Mia. But her wide, frightened eyes pierced through him like arrows. "You shouldn't have done that. He could hurt you," she cried, retreating a step. "Mia, No," she cut him off, shaking her head vigorously. "You don't understand what he's capable of." Vulnerability flashed in her eyes, and James sensed the depth of her fears swirling around the edges of her heart. "I can't drag you into this. I won't let you." "Mia, I care about you," he said softly, stepping closer. "Please don't push me away like this. You don't have to face him alone." "I don't want to put you in danger," she replied, her breathing shaky, as if the confrontation had knocked the air out of her. She turned away, her voice dropping to a whisper. I can't do this." Feeling a chasm open between them, James watched her retreat further into herself. All the questions and uncertainties he had tried to confront now felt hopelessly unbalanced. How could he reach her when she was so wrapped in her own turmoil? Over the following days, as Mia pulled further away, James was haunted by the past that unraveled in a manner he never expected. He couldn't shake off the enigmatic connection they had discovered, 2 rings and swirling threads connecting their lives. Fueled by a burning need for answers, he poured himself into research. From his office, he began digging into adoption records, hospital logs, and old family trees. After days of relentless searching, he stumbled upon a hidden truth. What started as a mere quest for understanding transformed into a revelation that sent chills down his spine. He found hospital records belonging to Lily's family, documenting the birth of a child around Mia's birth date. As he pieced the information together, he stumbled upon notes regarding a scandal. Lily's mother had an affair that resulted in the birth of a child that had been given up for adoption. As the truth sank in, James leaned back in his chair, breathless. Mia is Lily's sister, he murmured to himself, various pieces falling into place in a way he couldn't have anticipated. The implications of this connection were staggering. A love that had been lost could now have a chance at renewal. It was both devastating and exhilarating. Determined to share this discovery with Mia, he felt the urgency rise within him. She needed to know the truth about her past, and he felt an innate sense of responsibility to help her face it. If they were sisters, they could not only heal their own wounds but perhaps also forge a new family bond, rekindling what was lost. That Friday evening, he prepared to surprise Mia at the diner. The atmosphere was quieter than usual, but as he spotted her behind the counter, her eyes carried a weight of sadness that tugged at his heart. This time, he wouldn't let fear dictate their path. Mia, he called gently, his voice soft yet firm. She turned, and for a moment, he saw flickers of hope in her expression. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, but perhaps there was still a piece of her that felt connected to him. "I don't know, James. I don't want to make things more complicated. Mia, please. I need you to hear me out," he urged, stepping closer as she sighed and finally nodded, leading him to a quiet corner booth. After a moment to gather his thoughts, James looked deep into her eyes. "I did some digging, and I found something important. You're not just Mia, the woman who works at the diner. You're Lily's sister." Her eyes widened as a mix of confusion and disbelief took over. "What do you mean?" "I found records that show that Lily's mother had an affair with somebody else and fell pregnant. Because she could not risk the scandal, she decided to give that child up. That child was born on the same day you were born. That child was you. You are Lily's sister, her half-sister." Emotions swirled in Mia's heart as she grasped his words. "Are you serious? This can't be true. We share the same mother, but a different father." I traced it back. "You're connected in ways that might seem unimaginable, but it's there," he reassured her. "This isn't just a coincidence. I can help you uncover more about your past, about Lily, about everything." There were 2 heart-shaped rings in Lily's family heirloom. One went to Lily, and one went to you. Mia looked away, absorbing the gravity of the revelation. What if it's true? What if I had family that I never knew about? Her voice broke, partly from hope, partly from fear. James reached out, gently taking her hand. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together. You don't have to be alone in this. You've already shown me that love can survive beyond loss. Perhaps this is the beginning, not the end." As their gazes locked, James saw the flicker of determination in her eyes. It was darkened still by uncertainty, but it was there. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but he was willing to navigate them for the chance at forming a new family, a chance for both of their healing. In that moment, they stood on the precipice of a revelation, ready to discover what lies ahead, together. In the days that followed James's revelation, he and Mia found themselves grappling with the life-altering truth of their connection. While they weren't siblings by blood, the complexity of their newfound relationship as brother-in-law and sister-in-law formed an unexpected but profound bond. Together, they began to navigate the emotions that accompanied their unique family ties. James wanted to assure Mia that, despite the unsettling circumstances surrounding her origins, she now had a place in his life. The weight of losing Lily had created a chasm in his heart, but with Mia, he discovered a glimmer of hope. "We'll face everything together," he reassured her one afternoon as they sat in the diner once again, sipping coffee. "I'll help you talk to Lily's family. They'll want to know about you." Mia nodded, though the flicker of anxiety in her eyes remained. What if they're angry or see me as a reminder of the past? She pushed the cup of coffee away, her hands trembling slightly. What if it complicates everything? "It might, but we can handle it. It's time for you to know where you come from," he replied, determined. "And for me, too. You're part of this family now. Far from being a complication, you're a connection." Over the next few weeks, they spent countless hours together, sharing stories, laughter, and, most importantly, healing. James learned more about Mia's life in foster care and the emptiness of not knowing her biological family. Through their shared experiences, they began to understand the depths of their grief, not just that of losing Lily, but an opportunity to build something new amid the sorrow. Mia found solace in James's openness. They confided in each other, forming a bond that transcended friendship. As they delved into Mia's lineage, they often found themselves identifying traits and mannerisms that mirrored Lily, lightening the weight of pain that used to hang over James's head. However, the shadow of Mike still loomed in their minds. Mia's hesitance to fully embrace this new beginning was often punctuated by fears of her past. What if he comes back? She worried one evening, her voice barely above a whisper as they crossed into a quiet, dimly lit street. "He knows I work at the diner. He could find me again." James wrapped his arm around her shoulder instinctively. "You don't have to face him alone. We'll increase security at the diner and make sure he knows you're not available," he promised, determination flooding his words. Mia slowly nodded, appreciating his strength. "Thank you, James. I don't know what I'd do without you." As the weeks passed and the leaves turned to colorful hues of fall, James and Mia prepared to connect with their family. James took the lead in reaching out to Lily's family, feeling both nervous and excited to introduce a sister-in-law he never knew existed. The reunion took place in a small gathering at Lily's parents' home, where laughter and tears intermingled under the warm glow of a fireplace. Mia's heart raced as she entered the space, memories of Lily cascading over her like an emotional wave. James sensed the whirlwind of emotions inside her, and he felt a sense of protection and celebration simultaneously. For the first time, they shared their story, how Mia had found James, the rings, and the truth that bound them together. Lily's family received her with open arms, understanding the deepest pain of loss and the miracle of rediscovery that Mia represented. Tears flowed freely as they recounted stories of Lily and her aspirations, bringing both joy and sorrow. It was a moment of healing for all involved, and Mia found herself embraced not just by the family of her past, but by a family she wished to step into wholeheartedly. As laughter erupted in the corner, signaling a push to continue their legacy forward, Mia felt the weight of her past lift slightly. She realized that with James and the family, she could construct her own sense of belonging. After the gathering, as they stood outside in the cool evening air, James whispered, "You did it. You faced it." He smiled gently, and she beamed back, the glow of acceptance lighting up her face. Just then, James noticed headlights approaching from the distance, a car turning into the driveway. His pulse quickened as he recognized Mike's vehicle, a shadow creeping back into their newfound peace. "Mia, just stay behind me," he warned, instincts kicking in. But she stepped forward, her resolve tightening around her as she faced the door through which Mike was stepping. As he emerged from the car, his expression revealing a mix of anger and disbelief, Mia held her head high. She felt stronger than she had in months, invigorated by the love and support she had found. "Mike," she said firmly, taking a step toward him, "you need to stay out of my life. I don't want any more of your threats." He scoffed, confidence tinged with frustration. "You think you can just forget what happened? You're still my problem," he sneered. "Not anymore," James interjected, stepping beside Mia with an air of authority. "If you don't walk away now, I will make sure you regret it. You have no right to intimidate her." The tense moment hung palpably in the air, but Mike hesitated, surveying the strength that blossomed from the two of them, realizing he was outmatched in more ways than one. "Whatever, you guys are idiots," he spat but backed away, climbing back into his car. Mia felt overwhelming relief wash over her as Mike sped off, disappearing into the darkness. She turned to James, her heart racing, not just from fear, but exhilaration. "I stood up to him," she breathed, breaking into a grin. "I actually told him off." "Yes, you did," James exclaimed, elation bubbling within him. He took her into his arms, both laughing and trembling from the surge of the encounter, then stepped back to meet her eyes. "You are unstoppable." As the two shared a quiet moment beneath the starlit sky, James reflected on the journey they had undertaken. Yes, they had endured loss, but they had also discovered something beautiful, a bond formed through adversity, love, and resilience. In the weeks that followed, James and Mia created new memories as a family, celebrating the reclamation of their pasts as they looked forward to a hopeful future. Together, they honored Lily's spirit by remembering her fondly while embracing the connections they had forged anew. Though Mike disappeared from their lives, his shadow faded alongside the fear they had fought so hard to transform into strength. With each shared moment and each laugh they exchanged, James felt his heart grow lighter, realization blooming within him. Love and kindness had given them both a second chance, redefining their lives in the most unexpected, yet wonderful ways. And as the seasons continued to change, among the laughs and the stories told in the embrace of family, James and Mia found warmth in what could have been a mere coincidence, now transformed into a beautiful beginning. Together, they marched forward, ready to face whatever the future held with open hearts. Thanks for watching. How would you rate this story? Give it 1 to 5 hearts in the comments, and let me know what you thought. This is a brand new channel, and your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed the story, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an episode. Your likes, comments, and shares help this community grow, and I'd be so grateful to have you along for the journey. See you next time.